The UFC heads back to London this weekend. Pretty stacked for a fight night card. Some big names on there. Former welterweight king Leon Edwards makes his return. First time back in the octagon since losing the belt to Bilal. Remember the name Muhammad. Many people did not see that coming. I totally did. He fights Sean Brady. We remember he was supposed to fight Jack Della Maddalena. Jack Della got pulled up to fight Bilal for the title in May. In comes Sean Brady. Brady's been calling out Leon since he beat Gilbert Burns back. Was that beginning of September, end of August, I believe September. But he really wanted this fight. Originally, they weren't giving it to him. So, welterweight's in kind of a weird place here with a lot of their top guys. But yeah, Brady gets this fight. Biggest opportunity of Brady's career. Justin, what are you thinking of this fight? What do you think of Leon? I think that's obviously the biggest story here. Obviously, he's back fighting in his backyard, but it's kind of interesting. You always wonder with a guy like him who had this, one of the longest runs to get to a title, right? He was kind of the, not to say uncrowned king, but he was a deserving number one contender for years. And Colby was getting shots at Usman. It didn't really seem like Usman wanted the fight. Leon had fights fall out. It was such a crazy, long, stressful run to get to the belt. He touches gold. He defends it twice. I kind of forget about that Colby fight. But then he loses the belt in pretty, bad fashion, right? Like Bilal Bilal ripped it off him. Like Bilal went in there. A lot of people, no one thought he was going to win. Leon was disrespecting him. Everyone disrespected him. He's like the most disrespected champion in the history of the UFC. But so he loses his belt at home. It's got to be like a pretty terrible feeling, I imagine. But now we get to see him again. What are your thoughts on the return of Leon Edwards and his opponent Sean Brady?
Yeah, I like this fight for the division. Like you said, dude, Leon obviously won the belt in dramatic fashion over Kamaru, but he goes, he defends against Kobe and then he loses to Bilal, like you said, but with Leon, I almost feel bad for the guy in the fact that he's a great fighter, but he's not the most entertaining fighter to watch. And I just think you see the UFC continue to fucking throw this guy wrestlers and wrestlers and wrestlers, and it's like all he fights. And he was booked for Hamzat multiple times. Like we all know how that probably would have went. It's just can the guy ever get a strikey a true strikey match?
Well, that's why it sucks because this, not to say tailor made. I'm a big fan of Jack Della's as well, but that was a good fight for him. This guy's had, as you said, he fought Usman twice and then he fights Colby. It's been all wrestlers and he's done well in those fights. Obviously has great takedown defense and pretty good offensive grappling himself, but this is a way worse matchup for him than Jack Della.
Yeah. And like you said, Sean Brady's a great wrestler, but the thing with Sean is you look at Sean's kind of resume in the UFC, Sean Brady still to me doesn't have a win that screams, oh, this guy's become an elite yet. He beat Burns. We all know that Gilbert. I haven't seen a drop off from a fighter and as fast as I have Gilbert Burns in quite some time. Shout out to Gilbert Burns. I'm a fan of him. I just feel bad for the guy. He's looking older and his performances he's falling off so fast.
Dude, the Brady fight, I was just, as were you, but we were just watching that. He looked really, really slow and he was timid. Yeah. He wasn't letting his hands go. That was a different version of Gilbert Burns. So on the resume, it says Gilbert Burns. And I thought Brady looked great, but again, that wasn't Burns that fought Hamzat. That wasn't Burns that fought Usman, but yeah.
Yeah. And then he fights Kelvin Gastelum, who obviously just like Burns has been a shell of himself for years. He loses to Bilal and gets stopped by Bilal. That's just another thing. It's tough. And don't get me wrong. I think Bilal Muhammad's one of the best. Obviously, well, clearly he's the best welterweight in the world right now. But I do think Shavkat will handle him. I'm gonna say when they do fight. But that being said, he got finished by Bilal, and nobody gets finished by Bilal. So that isn't a good look. I do think people are looking at this fight and being like, look, it's Leon versus a wrestler. We're going to lean with the wrestler. It's very clear that's a weakness in Leon's game. But although Leon has shown that he can kind of deal with it from different guys, But with both their resumes, both their past performances, I'm actually going to still lean with Leon Edwards to come in here and get this one done. We all know via decision, obviously, down there in London. But yeah, I just think like we know how this fight goes. Sean Brady, his path to victory is getting this one on the ground and controlling Leon. But I think when it's some of these guys, a guy like Sean Brady, who I haven't seen him, yeah, he's a great wrestler, but I haven't seen him put on a pace like a Bilal Muhammad did to Leon. Like I'm talking a ferocious in your face, boom, 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 shooting, like, you know what I mean? Just that type of pace. I don't know if he's capable of doing that. If he is, he maybe gets this one, gets a victory in this one. Vegas clearly sees him as the favorite in this. He's a slight favorite going in London, which is big. But yeah, I think Leon's experience, I think obviously being in London, the crowd's going to be going crazy for anything that he does. We know that kind of has an effect on judging at times in this sport, although you never know what the judges are going to do in this sport. They're a joke, to be honest with you. But yeah, I'm going with Leon Edwards to get this one done via decision over Brady. What do you think?
Dude, yeah, so before this fight, because I've been like very high on Brady recently, I had never seen him fight Bilal. I remember like the finishing sequence, and it's kind of like this. Go look at Bilal's resume, dude. He just has a knockout. I think he has, I'm not going to even say, he doesn't have very many finishes. It might be his only knockout in the UFC. I'm pretty certain, at least on the feet. Maybe he has a TKO. But, dude, I just watched that yesterday. And if you didn't know either of their names, especially not Bilal Muhammad, have you ever seen the fight? Bilal Muhammad marches forward like a marauder. Like, dude, throwing combo, looking like a strike. Like, I can't even put together a sentence talking about it. It was crazy, bro. He was letting his hands go. They both were. Brady's striking is like crazy underrated. And I feel like going into the Burns fight, again, I knew he was this undefeated wrestler. I mean, before Bilal, but he had a lot of hype coming around him. I think he was a big favorite in the Bilal fight. They kind of gave Bilal that fight to slow down his run because, like, they were throwing when Luque was hot, Luque was like next up. They threw him to Bilal, and then like Brady is the new kid. It's like, oh, here you go. Someone fucking finish this run, dude. So I had never seen that fight. But I didn't know all too much about Brady before the Burns fight. And I was shocked at how good his stand-up looked in that fight. And he does do a lot of like pressing it, smushing against the fence. Like that is kind of,
Keep in mind that Burns should be fighting at lightweight. Let's throw that out there. He's an undersized welterweight.
That's fair. Yes. And again, he looked very slow in that fight. And the Burns, as I just said, like, regardless of his record, like what he was doing back in like 2021, 22, like he fought nothing but killers and he gave them all hell. So like, that's why I love Burns. That's why everyone loves Burns. But that was not Gilbert Burns in there versus Sean Brady. So as much credit as we can give Brady, again, we can't give him all too much, I guess. But dude, he was piecing up.
Sick back tattoos, I will say.
Agree to disagree, right? Well, you're not a tattoo guy, right? Clearly. I'm just kidding.
Come on now.
So like he was piecing up Bilal Muhammad. That was right when we get off, I need you to watch that fight because Bilal has never fought like that before. And Bilal has this reputation for being boring because he is pretty boring. And like the Luque fight wasn't that exciting. The Burns fight, his arm was dangling off him and he still couldn't put him away for 25 minutes. That happened in the first round. So we have every right to say he's boring. The Leon fight was whatever, but
that's how he fights now though. Bilal has the confidence now to go in there on the fucking, he knows he's got the threat of the takedown. He can be heavy on the front foot, fucking all the pressure. If he does that, he's going to beat 90% of the people he fights, honestly.
But Brady was the one in their fight trying to initiate a takedown. I don't think Bilal shot once, and Brady wasn't able to get him down. But like, dude, so I just wanted to say that because I was genuinely, I've wondered for 2 years. I'm like, dude, how bad is Sean Brady's stand up if Bilal Muhammad knocked him out? That was not Bilal Muhammad in that fight. I don't know who it was, but it wasn't Bilal Muhammad. Sean Brady, his striking really impressed me, man. He's very active lead hand. He throws a really nice jab, a really good lead hook that he throws very frequently, a good front kick as well. Dude, I was shocked in the Burns fight about how good his striking was. And then since then, when I've watched his previous fights, I'm very surprised. Leon, the classic, don't let him bully his son, right? That his coach said going into that fourth or fifth round versus Usman. You can bully that guy. Bilal Muhammad ripped the belt off his waist. Like, I didn't leave that fight saying that Bilal is like way better than him, but like, you can outwork Leon and beat him. He's very boring. The Colby fight was very boring. The second Usman, or the third Usman fight technically, was
But
like,
does Sean have that cardio and endurance to keep that pace that Bilal had up for 5 rounds?
I don't know. Well, that's going to be the question. So again, that is what this fight comes down to. But I'm going to say again, the Burns fight, it looked like, even though he was the one on the attack, he was the one, throwing more offense. Like, you go sim through that fight, there's a lot of, lulls where he's just pushing him against the fence. And again, Burns, you don't really want to mess with on the ground. I think that was maybe more to catch his breath, but I don't know. I think he's good enough in the striking to win this fight. And Bilal out activityed him. He outworked him. He out cardioed him. That's what led it to him winning. People are underrating Leon in this fight. I really haven't watched any breakdowns of it, but I know Brady's a favorite. As you said, I think after you lose a fight like that, you kind of just assume now their career is going to fall off. I don't necessarily think that's going to happen with Leon, but with a guy like Brady, I just listened to an interview with him. He seems fucking locked in. He just had a kid very recently, actually. But I love when he just came off his biggest win. He was undefeated entering the UFC, undefeated in the UFC. He has a pretty bad loss. He gets a lot of hate for getting knocked out by Bilal. Again, I know I just debunked that he did actually look good in that fight. But I'm going to go with Brady. I'm going to pick I don't think Leon has ever been submitted. He really hasn't even been finished, has he? I mean, he really never does lose. Like, Leon is very good. Now I'm going to change my mind. All right, I'll go Sean Brady by decision. I see him getting out to an early lead, and then I see, is Leon going to come out aggressive and win this fight, dude? I don't know. Could you see that happen? Could you see a Leon knockout? I'm going to change my mind, dude.
Knockout's a big if, but
Sean has a messed up nose. Multiple people have said that. It starts bleeding in every fight. And then that's what happened against Bilal. I'm just ranting here, but that's what happened against Bilal. Brady looked great. All of a sudden he got, jabbed. He wasn't stunned or anything, but his nose starts bleeding. And then you're thinking about that. And then Bilal lets his hands go. He got knocked out. Leon Edwards, but I want to be a Brady fan, dude. I fucking hate having to pick fights. I'll go Sean Brady by 4th round TKO. I think he'll be able to maybe have some success on the feet. Leon can come on strong, but I see it being like a ground and pound TKO. Brady's nice on the ground, man. He really is. And, it seemed like Leon, no one could take him down because we had, 2 guys. We had Usman and Colby not be able to. But yeah, I'm going with Sean Brady. What did I say? 4th round TKO. There we go. In the co-main event, very big fight here, especially with what happened last weekend in the light heavyweight division. Obviously, we have a new champion, Magomed Ankalaev, took the belt off Alex Pereira. If you don't think he did, you're probably a moron. Hit that unsubscribe button. This is like a low-key number 1 contender fight in that division. We have the hottest prospect in that division, Carlos Ulberg. He fights former champion Jan Blachowicz. Jan Blachowicz, where has this guy been? He hasn't fought since he fought Alex Pereira in a very controversial decision, but he's gotten multiple shoulder surgeries in the last couple years. Very bad shoulder surgeries. When you're 41 years old, you don't want to be going through major reconstructive shoulder surgeries. Justin, who do you have in this fight? I know Ulberg opened as a much bigger favorite than he is today. I believe some money has come in on Blachowicz. I haven't checked in the last week or so, but it's closer than it was. What goes on here?
Yeah, I like this matchmaking by the UFC. Ulberg, like you said, is kind of on a bit of a run, but he's fought you, me, and the ice cream cone guy down the street.
There you
Uh,
go.
but but listen, Ulberg is on a run. He comes from the city kickboxing team. He's got the stand up. He's got power. He's got athleticism for this weight class. He was kind of supposed to be this prospect coming in. He gets stunned as like a minus 500 favorite in his debut against Kendrick Iwakwani, whatever his name is. He gets stunned there, but since then he's kind of, they've built him back up slowly to get him to this stage. Again, great matchmaking by the UFC. They throw him in with the 41-year-old with no shoulders, double shoulder surgery. But yeah, I think Vegas clearly thinks Jan Blachowicz is completely washed, because if Jan Blachowicz is any what himself and has the cardio and the things that he's had in his career, I think this is a very winnable fight for him. But when a 41-year-old hasn't fought in multiple years, had multiple shoulder surgeries, there's no reason to side with Jan Blachowicz on this one. I'm going to go with the younger, the fresher fighter who, as long as he stuffs probably a takedown or two from Jan early, Jan ain't even going to work. He's not going to shoot after that if you stop it early. If he knows that he has the advantage over you, obviously he'll then use that, but he's not really looking to implement the wrestling. But like you said, he also trains with Izzy. Izzy's fought this guy. They know the ins and outs of Blachowicz's game. This will be Eugene's second time preparing for him in a huge fight. So I'm going to lean with Carlos Ulberg to get this one done, and I'm going to lean for him to get it done via finish in the second round in this one. I think he'll stay on the outside early. They'll both be throwing those leg kicks. He might have to stuff a takedown or two once Jan starts to realize, oh shit, this guy's a little too fast, a little too powerful for me at this point in my career. And he does that. He's looking at a very impressive win, and he's in a weight class where he's about a win or two away from a title shot. He's a very entertaining fighter for the division, someone the UFC wants to promote, entertaining fights, knockouts. So yeah, I think this will be the Carlos Ulberg coming out party, and I think he will get a finish over Jan Blachowicz. What about you?
What round?
Second round finish, TKO.
There we go. Dude, let me ask you, I'm glad you said that about the city kickboxing. Was this just because like we were big Izzy guys and we were big fans of city kickboxing? Did we think he was like a bigger prospect than he was? Because like I remember back in like 2020, this guy being like Izzy, that was when Izzy was the face of the UFC, and he was like, this kid, Carlos Ulberg, is going to be the future champion. He's the next big thing in the UFC, like talking him up. He was, he looks the part, right? He's freaking handsome. He's jacked. He's very fast. And then he loses that one. Again, he was like a minus 800 favorite. It was his first or second fight in the UFC. And then I think he just lost all of his hype. Bro, he has won 7 in a row. And 5 or 6 of them are knockouts. A lot of first round knockouts as well. How does this guy have no hype around him? I don't really understand it. Like, I thought it was like 5 in a row. 7 in a row is pretty substantial. If he wins this, 8 wins in a row and beating a guy like Jan, I saw Ulberg get a lot of hate. After he just fought Volkan Oezdemir and he got like some leg kicks, right? He had like a little bit of trouble standing at the end of the fight. Like, I think Volkan Oezdemir is a very good fighter. He's he's maybe a little bit out of his prime. He's only like 33, 34, especially for those divisions, bro. He's not like completely washed. His only losses are like Yuri, Krylov, who we think is like the dark horse in the division, and Ankalaev. Like, this guy is not losing to like bad guys. So, and he's a great striker. So a lot of times when a prospect, it's almost like, not to say Hamza Burns for the 8th time today, but like, bro, it's okay. When you have your big step up in competition, like Ulberg, he had just fought Menefield. He knocked him out in fucking 2 seconds, and then he goes up and he fights Volkan Oezdemir. Like, bro, that's a huge step up. I don't care that you're minus 300 favorite. Volkan is no slouch. He's still sleeping people in the first round. He's a good fighter. He's been around. So, yeah, when you have a close fight with him and, like, Volkan has some success, it's not the end. You still won the fight. So, again, I think people made too big a deal of that. I like Ulberg, man. I just watched the Volkan fight the other day. He is fast. He is powerful. Volkan's got a chin on him because he got cracked multiple times. It's more so I was getting ready these last couple of weeks to pick Jan. Again, he was at like minus 280, more than that, I think, at one point. I don't know how you could bet on, I don't know how you could pick a 41-year-old with that type of damage done to his shoulders, right? His last win was Rakic. He was not winning that fight. He was not even close to winning that fight. I'm an Alexander Rakic fan. That was Rakic's coming out party. I was telling everyone, I was like, look at Jan's the former champ. Like, this was like an even money fight. That was back in like 21, I think. Rakic looked amazing in that fight, dude.
And then Blachowicz looked like slower, and it was gassing early in that fight. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying, bro. Yeah. And I guess maybe because the Pereira fight was so close, I keep saying how close it was. And if it wasn't for body language, there was really like one or two exchanges late in the third round that won Pereira that fight. Like, I would give it to Pereira, but like, dude, you're right. Like, Rakic was beating him badly. Not badly, but then, like, you know, they give Jan the win because Rakic gets hurt. And granted, we all know about his iron shins. He goes shin to shin with everyone. So that could be a problem with, you know, Ulberg not really checking the leg kicks. But you can't pick a guy like Jan. People are still pointing to the Izzy fight, dude. That was, I mean, we watched that together. I was at Wake at the time, dude. That was a long time ago. So that was literally 4 years, like almost exactly 4 years ago. So I'm not, you can't give, and at that point he was already old. So yeah, I don't think a guy like Jan, he's always had a weird style. Like 10 years ago, he wasn't like this, you know, speed demon on the feet. He always found unorthodox ways to have success on the feet, but it was never really due to his speed. I have a hard time picking against Ulberg. Again, for weeks building up to this, I was all in on Jan. I just have a tough time picking him right now. And I don't really think he still has the power to put Ulberg's lights out. And you got to think Ulberg is going to, like, you know, this is his moment, right? Like, he was a rising star. It maybe took him a 7-fight win streak, which not too many people do, by the way, in the UFC. It's hard to win 7 fights in a row. So, again, for that division, man, he's fast, he's lean, he's got power. He's a special fighter, and I think it's time he realizes his potential. You said second round. I can't pick first round. Are we both? Nah, I'll go third round. I'll say it's 1-1, and Ulberg finds the chin in that third round. Ulberg is a counter striker as well, right? Like, that's when he's had success versus these guys. I actually remember when he was fighting Izzy, me and you sitting there talking about it, saying, bro, Jan does these weird blitzes. That's what Thiago Santos knocked him out with. That was fucking a long time ago. But, like, he does these weird blitzes, and, like, I don't know. I have to think Ulberg's going to find the chin. I'm backing Ulberg. I'll go third round knockout. But, again, I could see Jan having some success, but very hard to pick a guy on the wrong end of 40 coming off, like, a 2-year layoff. But no, we got Kevin Holland, Gunnar Nelson. Shout out to Kevin Holland. He fights every other weekend. We can break down his fight in a month whenever he gets back in the octagon. But any closing remarks here?
No, appreciate Brawling and Balling as always. We'll be looking to push more content out, get some guests on for you guys. And,
some guests? Really?
Yeah, absolutely. But like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you guys soon.